Hi everyone. This short lecture is meant to clarify a few concepts, in particular just one concept that's vital for successful final papers in the course, and that concept is a critical perspective. And sort of redundantly, critical perspective is a perspective from which you criticize something from, or just a standard by which you make any sort of evaluation. Let me give you a personal example. So I have a little cousin. Her name is Leanne, except she pronounces it Leanne with 7 or 8 syllables because she's from the country in North Carolina. And she has a friend named Jenny. And Jenny thinks that Leanne is her best friend. And so Jenny often uses the idea that Leanne and Jenny are best friends to get her to do things that she may not otherwise want to do. So if Jenny wants a bite of Leanne's sandwich, she'll say, "Come on, we're best friends. Best friends share." If she wants her to share an outfit or to borrow a shirt, some shoes, whatever, she uses this idea of a best friend. So, what is a best friend? So, Leanne could ask her in that sense to define the qualities of a best friend and why that would compel her to behave in ways that she might otherwise not. In other words, Jenny is using the idea of best friend status to get what she wants, but there is a deeper meaning there. It is a standard by which some evaluation of Leanne's behavior is being made. The point is that anytime you make any argument, this ice cream sucks, Birdman made no sense, Michael Jordan is the best basketball player of all time, the College of Charleston is the best school in South Carolina, any sort of a claim that you want to make, there is some sort of a standard by which you would make that claim possible, make that claim true. So you would have to define best basketball player. What are the qualities of greatness that would make Michael Jordan the best of all time? And then measure Michael Jordan's resume against those generic criteria. What counts as the best school in a state? Or the worst school in a state? You would need to define the generic qualities, the general qualities of good schools and bad schools, and then show how C of C or Clemson or another school might or might not measure up. The same is true for good food or for ice cream. You could define those general qualities and then identify why this particular pistachio ice cream doesn't measure up. So the point is that before you really make a specific argument in your paper about a single campaign or a small set of texts that you've chosen to do your assignment on, you've really got to say what your thesis is, what you're evaluating, and then erect this kind of general standard from which you'll criticize. So that's your critical perspective. That is, right after the introduction, roughly, you say, well, these are the definitions, these are the terms of art that I'm using. To clarify, it doesn't necessarily have to be an existing theme or theory or body of literature, although that's completely fine if you're leaning on scholarship, other scholarship, to help you define your critical perspective. This could be entirely of your own making as well. All I expect is that you spend a substantial portion of the paper, roughly 2 to 3 pages, defining the particular qualities of your critical perspective before you move on to analyzing the specific campaign you've chosen to analyze. So let's take even more specific examples relevant to these papers. So hypothetically, let's say you wanted to say that Bill Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign was a slickly run campaign in the sense that people have often criticized Clinton as being a liar, in a sense. I mean, he lied before Congress in a deposition. But as a campaigner, they said that he was a slick politician. Slick Willie was his name. In other words, sort of like a car salesman has a way with words. That's a criticism of Clinton. Let's say you're no big fan of Clinton's and you can write any essay you would want to write in this class, so long as you have the evidence to back it up. Let's say you want to pursue that thesis. Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign involved the slick use of rhetoric. So I would ask you then, well, what do you mean by slick? And then you would, in a general sense, display the qualities of slippery or slick rhetoric in 2 to 3 pages. It uses words to obfuscate. It doesn't exactly lie, but it can misdirect the American public, and so on and so forth. And so you could identify a few subsets of this idea of slick rhetoric for this audience, and then move on to explain how in a speech or 2 speeches or a few set of representative texts from that 92 campaign, how Clinton falls prey to the criticisms that you've just leveled against him. Another example, the common man persona is one, or common person persona that we've talked about in this class, is kind of person next door, person you want to have a beer with, person you could have grown up with, person who's sort of in your tribal politics plays a big part in this. The common man persona is really, I think, first articulated and really done first in a winning way by Jimmy Carter in 1976. So you could take this idea of the common man persona, define its very specific qualities in terms of what you look like, what you sound like, how you speak, what your ads look like, and then apply it to any number of political campaigns. But let's say your paper was on Jimmy Carter in 1976. You would then establish what is the common man persona in 2 to 3 pages after your thesis, and then move on to a few representative set of texts, ads or speeches from Jimmy Carter in 1976. The point is, I think that you can use this idea of the critical perspective to make sure that your paper is not a biographical paper, and it's not a historical paper, but this is an argumentative interpretation of a campaign that you're offering for this audience, for the end, your capstone essay in this course. That it is an argumentative paper with a historical component, as I've said before, and not a historical paper with a minor argumentative or biographical component. So the argument comes first, but to make a good argument, you have to have a critical perspective that backs that argument up, that then is then specifically applied to the case study that you would like to pursue.